They built monuments that touched the heavens, carved their prayers into stone that would outlast empires. But when the gods fell silent, they simply walked away. Across every continent, at the height of their power, thriving civilizations vanished. Not destroyed by war, not consumed by plague. They abandoned everything. Temples still filled with offerings, palaces with food on the tables, cities that had stood for 1,000 years. What made them leave? What did they know that we've forgotten? Tonight, we uncover the truth behind the greatest mystery in human history, the cities the gods suddenly abandoned. Tikal, Guatemala, 900 CE. Population, 100,000. One of the most powerful cities in the Mayan world. And then, in less than a generation, it became a ghost town. Archaeologists discovered something chilling. The last monuments weren't finished. Carvings stopped mid-sentence. Tools were left exactly where workers dropped them. It wasn't gradual decline. It was exodus. Dr. Richard Hansen spent 40 years excavating Mayan sites. His team found buildings that could house 20,000 people, temples requiring millions of man-hours, all abandoned simultaneously across dozens of cities spanning 500 miles. This wasn't one city failing. This was systemic collapse of an entire civilization at its absolute zenith. Tikal was not alone. Between 814 50 CE, something extraordinary happened. From Cambodia to Zimbabwe, Peru to Jordan, civilizations abandoned their greatest achievements. Angkor, the largest pre-industrial city in the world. 1 million people. Hydraulic engineering that wouldn't be matched for centuries. By 1432, the temples stood empty. The sophisticated canal system, dry. Great Zimbabwe, capital of a kingdom that traded with China and Persia. Walls so precisely constructed, no mortar was needed. Abandoned in the 1450s. The royal palace, silent. Mesa Verde, Colorado. The ancestral pueblones built entire cities into cliff faces. By 1300, every dwelling was empty. Pottery still sat on shelves. Corn still stored in granaries. These weren't primitive villages. These were sophisticated urban centers with complex social hierarchies, advanced agriculture, and monumental architecture. They should have thrived for centuries more. Instead, they became monuments to absence. For decades, archaeologists proposed standard explanations. Warfare, disease, famine. But the evidence tells a different story. There are no mass graves. No burn marks from conquest. No sudden population collapse from plague. At Tikal, skeletal remains show people were well nourished until the very end. Climate studies revealed the truth was more terrifying than war. Between 800 and 1000 CE, the Yucatan Peninsula experienced the worst drought in 7,000 years. Lake sediments show rainfall dropped by 50% for decades. But here's what makes this truly haunting. The Mayans knew drought. They'd survived dry periods before. Their agriculture was specifically designed for variable rainfall. So why did this drought break them? The answer lies in a fatal miscalculation. Success became their downfall. As populations exploded, Mayan kings competed to build larger temples, claiming divine authority. Each monument required more labor, more food, more water. When the drought came, the system couldn't flex. It shattered. But the truly shocking part? They could see it coming. In 2012, archaeologists deciphered carvings from the final decades. Mayan kings documented everything. Failing crops, dry wells, rising tensions. They recorded their civilization's death in real time. The inscriptions revealed desperation. Kings ordered more sacrifices to the rain god Chark. More temples built. More rituals performed. The stones record over 200 separate ceremonies begging for rain. But the rains didn't come. And when the people realized their god kings couldn't save them, faith collapsed faster than the water supply. Half a world away, Angkor faced identical circumstances. Centuries of success made them vulnerable. They'd engineered an agricultural miracle, a network of reservoirs and canals feeding rice paddies year-round. LiDAR mapping revealed the true scale, 400 square miles of sophisticated hydraulic engineering. But complexity creates fragility. Climate records show monsoons became erratic in the 14th century. Too much rain, then too little. The infrastructure couldn't handle extremes. Floods damaged canals. Droughts entered reservoirs. Repairs required massive labor forces, but workers were needed in failing fields. A cascading failure. And just like the Mayans, the Khmer kings had built their legitimacy on controlling water. When they couldn't, people walked away from centuries of tradition. But environmental stress doesn't fully explain the pattern. Because these people didn't just leave. They left everything behind. At Mesa Verde, archaeologists found perfectly preserved rooms, food stores untouched, ceremonial objects left on altars, valuables that represented generations of wealth simply abandoned. This suggests something beyond practical migration. This was rejection. These sites weren't just cities, they were sacred landscapes, living connections to ancestors and gods. Petra, the Nabatean capital that controlled incense routes for 500 years, carved directly into sacred cliffs. By the 8th century, abandoned. Why would people leave temples they believed housed the divine? Researchers discovered inscriptions that provide a clue. The Nabateans didn't just leave, they stopped maintaining the sites decades before abandonment. Deliberate neglect, as if the sacred had become profane. Dr. Sarah Parkak, using satellite archaeology, found this pattern repeats globally. Cities weren't ransacked or occupied by others. They were consciously rejected by their own people. This points to a psychological break. When environmental crisis destroys faith in institutions, in divine protection, people don't just migrate. They flee from the symbols of failed belief systems. But behind these monumental mysteries are individual tragedies. Families torn apart. Generations of knowledge lost. Dreams abandoned along with the cities. Skeletal analysis tells painful stories. At Mayan sites, remains from the collapse period show malnutrition, especially in children. Stress markers on bones indicate years of hardship before the final departure. Where did they go? DNA analysis provides surprising answers. Descendants of Tikal's population scattered across the Yucatan. Small rural communities. The survivors gave up urban life entirely. At Angkor, refugees fled to river valleys. The great temples visible from their new homes, constant reminders of what was lost. Oral histories passed down generations still speak of the city of gods that failed. Some never recovered. The Nabatean people simply vanished from history, absorbed into other cultures. Their language, dead. Their traditions, forgotten. Petra remained lost to the Western world for 1,000 years. The cities became cautionary tales. Monuments not to human achievement, but to hubris. We tell ourselves we are different. Our technology makes us resilient. Our understanding deeper. But the pattern remains eerily familiar. Megacities in water-stressed regions. Complex infrastructure dependent on predictable climate. Faith in technological solutions. The same three factors that broke Tikal, Angkor, and Great Zimbabwe. Cape Town nearly ran out of water in 2018. Chennai in 2019. Las Vegas depletes Lake Mead faster than it refills. The Colorado River rarely reaches the ocean anymore. We are building our monuments too. Glass towers reaching skyward. Smart cities consuming vast resources. Each one a bet that our mastery over nature is permanent. The ancient cities teach us, complexity without resilience is catastrophe waiting to happen. Faith in systems can evaporate faster than water in a drought. But there's another lesson. The people survived. Cultures adapted. Life continued, just differently. The cities died, but humanity didn't. One question remains. Why didn't they return? When rains came back to the Yucatan, when monsoons stabilized in Cambodia, why did these cities stay empty? Archaeological surveys show something profound. Later settlements avoided these sites for generations, built new villages with inside of empty temples but never moved back inside. Perhaps because they'd learned what we are still trying to grasp. Some bonds, once broken, can't be repaired. These weren't just cities. They were promises. When the gods proved unable to protect their people, the contract dissolved. The cities became tombs not for people, but for beliefs. Haunted not by ghosts, but by the memory of faith betrayed. So they walked away. And in walking away, they left us the most valuable thing, a warning carved in stone. Across centuries and continents, different peoples faced the same test. Build monuments to permanence in a world of change. put faith in systems that promise control over chaos. They all failed, but in failing, they succeeded in teaching us that the greatest architecture isn't stone. It's adaptability. The strongest faith isn't in permanence, but in the capacity to change. The cities the gods abandoned still stand, not as failures, but as teachers, reminding us that the price of hubris is abandonment. The reward for humility is survival. The question isn't whether we'll face the same test. It's whether we'll learn from those who already did, before our own monuments become mysteries for future archaeologists to ponder. The ruins remain. The lesson is ours to take.